Yo, what is up, guys? It's Cone back here again today with another video. And today I'm back with another recap of the NBA games from today. Some really good games today. A lot of interesting storylines happened, and so coming back to recap some of them for you. The game I want to focus on mostly is Wizards Nets. That was probably the best game of the day. Actually, it was easily the best game of the day. It was ridiculous. I'll talk about that at the end. I'll start real quick with Clippers Knicks to start it off. There wasn't a lot to really say about this game other than the fact that Paul George had a poor performance and Twitter clowned him for it, even though he's been fantastic this season. He's bound to have bad games. It's going to happen, but Kawhi really stepped up, and Reggie Jackson stepped up. Patrick Patterson stepped up. Really, everyone on the Clippers stepped up this game, even though Paul George wasn't playing very well, to beat the Knicks 129 to 115. On the Knicks side of the ball, really the story was Emmanuel Quickley, who continues to look like a steal in the draft. If not one of the steals of the draft, then maybe the steal of the draft. He's been phenomenal. His floater game, that's what everyone talks about, is impeccable. He doesn't miss, it feels like, and he's been getting a lot of respect. Lou Will gave him some respect. Paul George gave Emmanuel Quickley some respect today, too, in his post-game conference, and he deserves a lot of credit for how he's been playing. The Knicks, for like the first time in a little bit, I can really say that the Knicks have a bright future. Next, Jazz Nuggets. This game was also pretty good. The Nuggets ended the Jazz's 11-game winning streak. Jokic was unstoppable today. He tied his career high with 47 points. He's just really good, and even though Rudy Gobert is a great defensive center, it seems like Jokic always has Gobert's number. It really just doesn't feel like Gobert knows how to defend him very well, or that Quinn Snyder doesn't know how to game plan so that they can defend him. It feels like he always kills the Jazz. And if that wasn't evident by the 3-1 series comeback last year, then tonight it should have been super evident. Like I said, he had 47, but he had 33 of those points in the first half. He only had just 47 because in the second half it was kind of a blowout, so he really didn't even need to step up that much. On the Jazz side of the ball, it's one loss. The Jazz have won 11 straight. They're bound to lose one, and the Nuggets just came up to play more than they did tonight. Sixers-Pacers, this game was also incredible. The Pacers got absolutely killed down the stretch. They blew an over 20-point lead to a Sixers team without Joel Embiid. This is a game that last year's Sixers team would have lost. And that's a little bit due to or actually probably a bit due to Brett Brown, who failed to make adjustments a lot of the time. And the Sixers did a great adjustment tonight. Doc Rivers, shout out to him, he deserves a lot of credit, especially for someone who gets a lot of flack for blowing leads tonight. He was a huge part as to why they came back. He employed this 2-3 zone with Simmons and Thibault guarding the perimeter, and it just absolutely shut down the Pacers. They had no idea how to stop it, and the Sixers at one point were on a 21-2 run towards the end of the game. It felt like they could not miss. They were just doing everything right. Ben Simmons stepped up big time tonight, and he deserves a lot of credit for stepping up in Embiid's absence. He hasn't done that a lot this season, but tonight he really did. So hopefully that's a trend that continues forward, as Embiid will probably get some rest going into the playoffs, and they'll try and keep him healthy for as long as they can. So it's up to Ben to step up, and he did tonight. Magic Raptors, not a lot to talk about in this one. This one was a little less entertaining. The Raptors won 115 to 102, and it was really just probably the main story is the fact that Aaron Gordon shoved over Kyle Lowry just kind of randomly. I don't want to say necessarily randomly because there is history here. The Raptors and Magic in the bubble, Kyle Lowry fouled Aaron Gordon pretty hard and he got hurt. So tonight Aaron Gordon kind of shoved him. I don't think it was anything too malicious. It was obviously not a smart move because he ended up getting ejected for it. But yeah, that's really all there is to say about the Magic. On the Raptors side of the ball, they're really turning it around. Pascal Siakam had 30, 10, and 3 tonight. He was really good. Aaron Baines had 16 rebounds. He was just unstoppable on the glass. And Kyle Lowry had 12 and 15. This was a great performance from the Raptors. And if they want to continue to make a push towards being a playoff team, if they want to keep making that push towards being a threat in the playoffs, then this is what they have to keep doing. They have to beat these teams that they should beat, which is what they did tonight. I'll talk about Cavs Timberwolves next. This is the last game of the night, but I want to save Nets Wizards for last. Cavs Timberwolves, it was mainly the Anthony Edwards show for the Timberwolves. I don't really know how the Timberwolves won this game. They got out-rebounded by a ton. No one went off in particular. Like I said, Anthony Edwards was the main story for the Timberwolves tonight. He had a pretty efficient 23 points. He looked like the number 1 overall pick tonight, and I'm hopeful that he can continue to do that. He's been able to score the ball decently, but his efficiency's been god-awful, and if the Timberwolves want to see him develop into the player that he can be, he has to learn how to get that efficiency. It's going to come. I think he's a really talented player, and tonight he showed that. On the Cavaliers side of the ball, Andre Drummond had a 25 and 23 game, I believe. Larry Nance Jr. also had like 15 rebounds. So those two guys together had 38 rebounds or so, and that was almost more than the entire Timberwolves roster, and the Timberwolves still won this game by 5 points. It was really just the Timberwolves could not miss from 3 tonight, and the Cavs could not buy a 3, and that ended up killing them. Finally, we get to Nets Wizards, the game I really want to talk about, and it's because Russell Westbrook is not washed. Russell Westbrook's a really good player still. This Twitter narrative has been going around like free Beal, and stuff like that, and I was a little worried going into the end of the first half because in the first half, Bradley Beal looked like he wanted to have nothing to do with Washington. Beal kind of looked like he wanted out. His body language was just dead. I tweeted about this. His body language looked like Harden's, right? Like that night right before Harden like publicly requested the trade at the press conference. It looked a lot like that. He was sitting far away from his teammates. He was frustrated. He was throwing the ball. He was just kind of standing with his arms at his side, like not at all interested in the game. And he really turned that around in the second half. He had an incredible second half. He ended up scoring, I believe, 37 points. And it's just good to see that Bradley Beal kind of stepped it up. The Wizards won this game, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, but the Wizards won this game. The Wizards have 4 wins, and 2 of them are against the Nets, which I think is fantastic. As a Westbrook fan, Westbrook, my favorite player of all time, he had a phenomenal game tonight. It's really been a narrative going around that Russell Westbrook's washed, even though he has been dealing with a quad injury. It's like well documented and everything. Yet people continue to ignore it. He had 41 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. He shot super efficiently. He hit the game-winning three-pointer, like right at the buzzer. Or not right at the buzzer, like a couple seconds before the buzzer. I think there were 2 seconds left. Him and Beal both had clutch threes right there at the end. He was a force tonight. He had a block on Durant that got me super hype. Like I said, as a huge Westbrook fan, even though Westbrook and Durant, I feel like that rivalry is not as much there anymore, not as much as it was when they were in OKC and Golden State, but it's still fun to watch them go at each other. This was an amazing game, came right down to the wire, and like I said, Beal stepped up in the second half, but Russ played great all game. He was a force in the first half, he was a force in the second half, and he really looked healthy. He said after the game that tonight is like the first game he's felt like really, really healthy. He had a pretty good game last game too, and I think that this is going to be the start of Russ kind of turning his season around. Like I said, a lot of people called him washed. A lot of people said he couldn't play anymore. He was playing on a quad injury. He said it was like he was playing on one leg out there, and for a player whose game is a lot of explosiveness, athleticism, deception with like kind of stopping and going, it's kind of tough if you have a quad injury. Like that's his game. He uses his legs to get around defenders. He uses them to attack the rim. He's not really a perimeter player that much, even though he was pretty good on the perimeter tonight. Like I said, he hit that 3 to seal the game. But when you're a player who relies on his athleticism that much, a quad injury, like some other guys, if you're a perimeter player, like say a Kevin Durant, it wouldn't affect Durant probably as much just because he doesn't attack the rim the way Westbrook does. He's able to kind of just shoot over people. But when you're Russell Westbrook, also a player who gets a lot of lift on his jumper, it's probably really hard for him to get that force to go up with it. When you have a quad injury like that, that's really been lingering since he got hurt. I think it was in February of this past year with the Rockets, and then he came back and played in the playoffs, and he still wasn't super healthy. He still really hasn't been healthy, but tonight he said he was, and he looked like it. I'm hopeful that this can continue because I keep saying it. I'm a huge Russell Westbrook fan. He's my favorite player of all time, and it's so fun to see him play dominantly again. And if the Wizards can use this as a catalyst for their season to turn around, that'd be awesome. I'd love to see this Wizards team try and make a push for the playoffs. It's going to be very tough because they have put themselves in a huge hole. Like I said, they only have 4 wins on the season when a lot of other teams have way more. But if Russ goes back to playing like a potential MVP candidate, I'm not saying he's going to win MVP or anything, but like if he returns to the form back in January of 2020 with the Rockets where he was looking like a potential MVP candidate, if he can return to even close to that form and Bradley Beal can continue being the NBA's leading scorer, they can get some guys back from the COVID, the COVID protocols, injuries, stuff like that. Obviously, Thomas Bryant sucks that he's still missing time. I'm going to miss the rest of the season, but if they can slowly get healthier, these guys can return to form. The Wizards could be a fun team to continue watching. So hopefully they continue on that trajectory. On the net side of the ball, this Nets team plays no defense. There was something from StatMuse, which is a great account. If you don't follow them, go follow them on Twitter. Right now, the Nets are on pace to have or after the James Harden trade, that is. The Nets, since the James Harden trade, have the best like offensive rating in NBA history. If like the season ended today, their offensive rating would be the best in NBA history. Their defensive rating would be the worst in NBA history since the Harden trade. That's ridiculous. The fact that they own both of those stats And like obviously it's a narrative that the Nets can't play defense, but showing that they play literally the worst defense in NBA history, it says a lot. And I don't know if this Nets team is a contender. Well, obviously they're a contender. You have Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, but I don't know if they win the title if they have that much of a hole on the defensive end. You can only outscore teams 150 to 149 on so many nights. There are going to be some nights where your shots don't fall, and if you can't play defense to stop the other team's shots from not falling, you're going to get smoked. And when you play a team like the Lakers, where you need to stop Anthony Davis, you need to stop LeBron James if you make it to the finals, or like if you have to stop a Joel Embiid against the Sixers, and you just can't guard anyone, you're screwed. You can put up a bunch of points, but there's only so many points you can put up if the other team's putting up more than you. So the Nets have to shore up this defense. They need to get a true center. They signed Norvel Pell. I don't think he's the answer. They need a different option. They're bringing in a Mont Shumpert, who's a pretty good wing defender, or he was before he has kind of been out of the league for the past season or so. So hopefully he can return to form for them, because that could be huge if they pick up that defender. Otherwise, they're going to have to continue to look on the buyout market, the trade market around the deadline, and I guess we'll see what they come up with. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Nets team and this Wizards team progress over the course of the season. I think this is a really fun matchup for both of them, and I wish they play more. So with that being said, I think that's all I want to talk about today. No Thunder game today, which sucked. Thunder also didn't play yesterday. It's weird to have 2 games off in like this type of season. It feels like it's every other day, or it's 2 days back to back. It's never like 2 days off. So it's weird, but we play the Rockets. It'll be fun, and I'll be back either tomorrow or the day after with another one of these recaps. So I'll see you guys later.